Good morning and welcome. We are so excited here at UPS to welcome you today. This very important day. My name is Maria Luisa Boyce and I am with UPS. And I'm excited to welcome you to the beginning of our Women Exporter program. Today, we're launching it with great partners and great friends. And we're excited to be here. Why we support women, why are we focusing on women entrepreneurship? We'll learn about that today. We are excited to be part of the community of supporting women entrepreneurs, and something that we have learned through the launch of our program is that without the community and without the support of all our friends from government, from NGOs, from private sector, we cannot make it happen. So today we're very excited and proud to be joined by great speakers. And to give us the welcome this morning, we have a wonderful speaker that has been a great partner. And I'm going to ask to turn on the video to Minister Frida while I make the introduction as we prepare for our introduction.
Hi. So hi Maria. He's just joining in, so he'll join the video in a second.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you for that. So while we start and we introduce Minister Frida, I do want to say that for us, it has been an honor to be working with government and entities to be able to empower women entrepreneurs in around the globe. And in the UK, there's so much entrepreneurship, innovation, and support that we wanted to launch the program here. And we're going to hear today from the partners that are going to work with us through the next 4 weeks and 5 weeks as we do the model training and we go through the information that is going to empower you and to be able to give you the tools to be successful entrepreneurs. We're going to hear from organizations of networking of women entrepreneurs, from communities, global communities that support entrepreneurship, and for the work that is being done locally to be able to provide you the tools and be successful, let it be exporting, selling, doing e-commerce, just being able to be a successful entrepreneurship. And so with that, I'm gonna welcome for us here as we wait for the minister to join. Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So I was just trying to find the volume. So it's a bit loud.
Minister, it's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I was going to do the traditional introduction for you because, of course, we are very honored to have the Minister for Exports and Minister for Equalities, Mr. Mike Frida. But I want to do a different type of introduction because I love how you have been a champion for empowering entrepreneurship, empowering small, medium-sized, large businesses, and empowering women entrepreneurship, sir. And we really appreciate that partnership. One of my mentors always says there's a he for she, and you have been a truly he for she supporter. So, sir, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today and being able to give us the welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And obviously, you know, it's very kind of you to invite me to join you, especially at the launch of the Women Exporters program. As you know, I'm not just the Minister for Exports, but also I'm one of the Equalities Minister, because first of all, we see trade as a power of good or for good, but equally, we want to use the power of trade to not just spread prosperity down to beyond the boardroom, but also to ensure that we spread the benefits of trade across all the demographics. And part of that is very keen to ensure that we empower women to take part in the exporting journey. It's still too male dominated, and I regard myself as the UK's chief salesman, and my background is sales. And I do want to make sure that as we continue to get more people exporting, that we get people, if you like, onto the pitch that are the most talented individuals. And what that includes, obviously, which ties into your launch, is getting women to get involved in exporting. Because clearly what we know is that the more inclusive an economy is, the more inclusive companies are, that we know they tend to be the most successful societies and the most successful companies. And so having that kind of dual aspect of both exports and equalities does give me the opportunity to see the strength of female-led businesses. And, you know, I've come across a couple of businesses which are either women-owned or women-led, and I just think that we need to be doing more to showcase the success, to not just celebrate the contribution, but also to encourage those who think it's too difficult or it's not for me, particularly in those areas that are, if I can use kind of, you know, quite a blunt language, not seen to be traditional sectors that women are known for. You know, I'm old enough to remember that women always tend to be, you know, women in the boardroom always used to get HR. You know, we never saw many finance directors, we never saw many CEOs, we never saw many, you know, women engineers, and that's changed quite dramatically. And so, you know, we go back a few years ago, and something like just 12% of board members were women. Now, that's something about 10 years ago, it was only 12%, and now we're up to 40%, and that's a significant change. And it, you know, it does bring a different dynamic to the business and to the boardroom. But it's also been great to see things like Starling Bank that have grown into real global companies, started by women. And I think there's two things I wanted to tap into using the UPS initiative. One is, how do we showcase success? How do we nurture women to come forward? And I think there's two, if what I want to throw back, if you like, at the audience, is with my job as exports minister, we do a lot of work on infrastructure. And one of the things I'm very keen to talk to our partner countries is the use of expanding, if you like, broadband. And I use the opportunity for what I think in the UK we call them, you know, kitchen table companies. I think other countries call them garage startups, where the use of, you know, women are often balancing numerous demands on their time. And so the ability for someone who has very, you know, maybe domestic responsibilities to almost start a business or get involved in a business because they've got access through broadband, I think is an initiative that we are really not exploiting. And I think it really could, if you like, turbocharge the participation of women in business. And those who start, if you like, those garage companies or kitchen table companies can quite rapidly become, you know, major companies in a short period of time. And I think that we underestimate the power of just connectivity. And I know that, you know, you have some serious, you know, business leaders joining us today, and I really want to hear from them what they think we need to do, because I don't want to just focus on the boardroom. That is an important role, and it's an important ability to provide leadership and visibility, but equally I want to do more work, if you like, at the grassroots level to empower and nurture, you know, women into business. I think that one of the real benefits that we underestimate, it's not just the dynamic in business from having more talented women involved, but actually it's the economic benefit too. You know, if we got women participating in business as much as we got men involved, we know £250 billion could be added to the economy. And that, you know, given the financial difficulties people are facing at the moment, that I think is something that we shouldn't lose sight of. But I'm also quite keen to ensure that we get more women exporting. And this is where, again, I want to hear from those who are active in business, either doing it where we can share their experience, or women in business who are not exporting, and I'd be quite keen to understand from them why they're not exporting, and trying to challenge some of those those barriers. So I do think that we have more to do, and at Department for International Trade, I have a team which I've tasked to, if you like, look at how we can increase the diversity of our exporters. Part and parcel of that is, if you like, so I've talked about, if you like, the kitchen table. I've talked about those who are already active in exporting, and if you like, the final bit of the jigsaw is what we're doing with free trade agreements. So in our new free trade agreements, there is usually a gender chapter where both of us sign up to increasing opportunities for female entrepreneurs to take advantage of those free trade opportunities. And so whether it's startups, whether it's people in management, whether it's the entrepreneurs, whether it's the boardroom, I think whilst we've made significant progress, we've got an awful lot more to do. And that's why, the UPS initiative is something that I really want to do my best to support. And at that point, I will stop. The talking head is enough, and I'd actually want to know from the people who are doing it what help you need from us.
Minister, thank you so much. And I want to tell you, I love your words on what you have said, because for women entrepreneurs, it's about leadership, it's about the entrepreneurship itself, either exporting or doing business or being in the service industry. It's also about building networks around the globe. And I do want to tell you, your department has been a great supporter of that entrepreneurship. I think the one question that we have, Minister, is how can they contact, and I know we're going to have Susan Barton later today in the panel from your department, but how can they reach out to the ministry or the webpage, if your team can put the page online, but what will be the number one approach that you tell for the entrepreneurs of how to connect with your office?
So I think what we can do is we can put my email address. I'm on screen, so I can't see, but if there's a chat facility, we'll put my email address into there, and then obviously it will depend on what support they're looking for. If they're already doing it and they want help to get into a new market, do they want help with finance? Do they want mentoring? I mean, what we offer on the export piece is obviously things like UK export finance sits under in my portfolio, which is where we provide loan guarantees or payment guarantees. We have international trade advisors both in the UK and overseas. We have export champions, those who are already doing it, who are acting almost like as a mentor or showcasing, talking people through how it can be done. We have a variety of webinars in terms of, and that can be sector-based, or it can be more practical. How do you export? Or if someone's is active in renewables, how do they tap into that market? So it really depends on what advice they're looking for. And so if they just email me, then my team will be able to put them in contact with the relevant bit of the department that can reach out and give them some the support they're looking for.
Minister, thank you so much. And what we start today, our training is going to include training about how to export, logistics for e-commerce, understanding the customer experience, because one of the things that we have seen in the UK is e-commerce has caused a boom of more entrepreneurship and the potential of exporting, and understanding trade and tariffs. I'm a customs nerd, so that's in my, I love that, but I know it's a very tough topic to understand. So Minister Freer, we're gonna make certain that we, at the end, provide to the department the input and questions that we had, so we can help you provide more input. Thank you for giving the welcoming remarks today. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, and may the force be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye. So moving forward, we are so grateful for the minister to giving us the welcome remarks, and I love his perspective and how he has really highlighted the importance of certain things. And I know we're going to have some questions. I ask you to please put the questions in the Q&A or in the chat if you would like. And now let me welcome the panelists that are going to join us and have a conversation about this. So I will ask them to please turn on their cameras and be able to join us. We're joined by a group of women that I will call them women leaders, women partners that have inspired women entrepreneurship. I will call them. I know I'm reading. I will read their not read their bios, but I'll give you their career. But there's two things that all of these amazing women have in common. One, they are leaders in their field to make change and to drive change and empower and help individuals, entrepreneurs, and women. And the second thing is they have transformed that passion into something practical to make it happen. So welcome to all of you. Today we're met by five amazing women. And we have Noreen Burroughes Cesareo, who's the president of OWIT UK. And Noreen will talk about what OWIT is, and we'll talk a little about that. Noreen has many years of experience as a international trade, strategic marketing, and communications specialist. And so, Noreen, thank you and welcome. We have Ms. Frida Owinga joining us from Kenya. Frida, welcome. She's the president of OWIT International. Frida is also an entrepreneur and a certified life coach. And I love having conversations with Frida because there's always nuggets of wisdom. And Frida is going to talk us about OWIT International. Then we also have Anita O'Hara. Anita, and if I mispronounce your name, you will correct it when you speak. And Anita is the director of corporate partnerships with Young Enterprise, and it's an amazing company. Anita will share with us what they're working on. Anita has over 15 years of experience leading high performance development and fundraising teams in the charity sector. And I would love to hear, Anita, what you are working on. And last but not least, we have Lizbeth Becerra, who is with the International Trade Center SheTrades initiative. And Lizbeth has had experience with the United Nations, with OECD. She has worked in the Mexican public sector and international organizations. Lizbeth, welcome, bienvenida. I'm so happy to have you here. So Noreen, tell us about, as we have the conversation, all of us, we're gonna ask about what has been that the current state of women in trade. What are you doing from your perspective, right? From your organization perspective, and what are the top key pieces of advice that you will give the women entrepreneurs? Why is networking important? Noreen, back to you.
Thank you very much, Maria Luisa. I am delighted to be here, and thank you, UPS, for this amazing opportunity, the Women Exporters Program. It's music to our ears. So I'm here also as the president of the UK chapter for OWIT, the Organization for Women in International Trade. And this is an organization which is international, and Frida, my president, our president, will talk more about the global remit. I am going to talk about what we're doing in the UK, but before that, I also want to bring in a bit about the state of entrepreneurship and exporters here in the UK, which actually is part of our journey as to why we started OWIT here in the UK just under a year ago. We're a very, very young chapter, and which is a bit considering that we are a trading nation and have been doing so for many years. The fact that we only have OWIT here present for the last year says a lot in terms of women entrepreneurs exporting globally. So as I said, that I am here both as an entrepreneur and also as the president of OWIT. I am the founder and principal of a UK-based international women-owned consultancy, which is also a We Connect certified women-owned business. And I've specified that because that is another organization which is doing so much work to actually get women working in the supply chain. And my company is called Market Accents. And I have been doing business with international clients since the firm's inception in 2007. Now, when I started then, being an entrepreneur wasn't that easy. Being a women entrepreneur is more complex, as we know, with many more obstacles. And there were many challenges along the years, and the landscape is constantly changing, especially in recent years. When I did set up Market Access, I just did not even think twice about being a women entrepreneur and what that means. I had a solution, I went ahead to market it. And I actually moved from working with a large corporate, so I had all that big background behind me, to all of a sudden being on my own, having to manage company admin and the service delivery for client work. Come forward almost 2 years, and it is so different starting out as an entrepreneur now, 2 decades. There is more visibility, more signposting, more advice. However, the challenges are still there, and there's new ones being thrown in as well. So if we just look at the current situation in the UK, and these are statistics which have just been released by the UK Gender Index barely 2-3 weeks ago. Currently, 16.8% of UK active companies are female-led. That's a very small number. We've heard from Minister Frida that the Rose Review identified that fantastic number, 250 billion, which could be contributed to the UK economy simply by empowering more women. Well, it's nice to know that in 2021, last year, on the back end of COVID, 20% of all incorporations were by female-led companies. Yay, that is a good number, at least we're growing. And also the Rose Review for the release this year found that there was a record proportion of startups that are being founded by women, and that the growth of new female-led businesses is outstripping that of male-led companies for the very first time. And that is a milestone in itself. However, notwithstanding all this fantastic news, we know that women-owned businesses are still very underrepresented in terms of export activity. And this is a worldwide situation. It's not something that only the UK is grappling with. Recent research in Canada on the export activity and profitability of over 7,000 Canadian SMEs with women versus men owners found that women-owned export businesses achieve superior financial performance when they adopt an intensive export strategy. That is good news. OECD reports state that women entrepreneurs tend to operate different types of businesses than men. And we know that some of the services we're in, the personal services sectors, retail, tourism, healthcare, education, these are not services that lend themselves very well to export. And most of these jobs also tend to only create small number of jobs within the sectors. Hopefully this will change as more women are looking at sectors across, including STEM, and this is beginning to change, and even manufacturing. I work a lot with manufacturing companies, and it's brilliant seeing female-led businesses there as well. So what are these barriers? We're talking about them, and they include access to networks, decision-making, capital, trade promotion initiatives, such as trade missions. Fine, we've had COVID in the meantime, but now we should be starting to look at more opportunities. There's the gender-biased investment practices, and this is apart from the normal gender and other forms of discrimination which women face in the world of work. Now let's consider a word I said, which is networks, and this is where OWIT comes in. So networks and the upskilling for better decision-making, hence the UPS Women Exporter Program. I am here today together with Frida, and we represent a global network which acts as the springboard for many women-owned businesses like myself and like Frida and like many other people I'm seeing in the participants to facilitate that access to international markets. I have been active in the UK and internationally looking at access to international markets and how can that be made simpler, easier, and less of an insurmountable challenge. Now, the challenges we face, and Minister Frida was interested in how can they be done, and I've spoken to Susan about this as well in other times. We've got navigating the service delivery in different locations, different languages, the interesting legal clauses in contracts across borders, payment terms, the foreign exchange itself, the tax complications, different time zones, cultural differences, and the trade visits to consolidate client relationships, make new contacts. These are not that easy. If you're a family, a woman, you've got children, you're trying to juggle everything, then jump on a plane and go on a trade mission. Somehow we always seem to be juggling, always shifting from one position to another. We mentioned digitization, and I'm really glad that Minister Frida touched on this. This is making life simpler. And for me, it's a mantra. We have to be digital. I want to be digital. Digital opens access, but I don't want digital to actually be an obstacle, because it's going to take me so long to get into the digital frame of mind. I'm giving up valuable client time to have to go and learn how to be digital. That is not helping me as a woman-owned business. And I know Susan's been working a lot on the UPS, on the FTAs, but the power of networks like OWIT is hard to beat. And that is such a network. I know my time is up, so I'm going to very quickly round up. What can we do for you as a network? In this last year we've been here, we've had knowledge share webinars, we've participated in meetings and conversations in the UK and internationally, from WTO Public Forum to UK government to Chambers of Commerce, and we also are teaming up with OWIT chapters across the globe. We're trying to push digitization, open up conversations, how to make it easier with IP and opportunities for trade. So if you're joining OWIT and you're making use of all these programs that are over there, you're actually getting on a better springboard to be able to access those opportunities. And in terms of tips, and this is just 1 second, join the networks, be part of the community, and do participate in trade. Make your voices heard and make the most of training like the UPS Women Exporter programs available. I think I have now exhausted it. Thank
Noreen,
you.
thank you so much. I love it. And I think for the entrepreneurs that are listening to us, to your point, there's different challenges in the opportunity of networking, and something that we're going to express and communicate a lot during our training is that you're not alone. You're part of a community, and there's a community around you to support you. Like you hear Noreen's passion, which I love. That is important to be aware of that. Even if you think, oh, I don't have time, I'm too tired, right? Because we have everything. Networking and being part of that community makes a sense. Noreen, thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to turn over to Frida, who calling from Kenya, and as Noreen is the president of the Organization of Women in International Trade for the UK chapter. Frida is joining from Kenya, and she's the president of the OWIT International. And so Frida, maybe because Noreen covered a lot of great information on that piece, can you tell us, how does OWIT International see that women entrepreneurship around the globe? What are you seeing, and what can you share with the participants? And I think you're on mute, my dear Frida. Famous Zoom words.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria Luisa. And thank you, Noreen, for that very elaborate introduction and sharing with us what OWIT UK does. So OWIT, you look at OWIT as an international platform where multiple stakeholders have come together to support the advancement of women in business and to foster international trade. This is no mean feat. Not one organization can do it. As OWIT, we have multiple partners, and our first partners are our members on the ground, like OWIT UK, who do educational programs that are relevant for the people in their locality. So we come in as a global partner to support them with, getting a partner like UPS. So we have different partners. We partner with the ITA, International Trade Administration of the US, and in every country that we are in, we work with the departments of trade to support women to understand what are the different regulations, the taxes, the barriers, because it's very complex for a woman to do that beyond just running your business locally. Trying to export creates a whole different ballgame. So as always, what we do is we have 27 chapters across the world, and some are in the Americas, we have some in Africa, some in Europe, and of course we have the UK. And each of these chapters, our role is to support the business leaders to ensure that they're running a robust business support organization, because when the business leaders are strong, then it has a multiplier effect that they support the organizations with farm level interventions, so that organizations that they support, like the ones Noreen has talked about, they ensure there's competitiveness, there's compliance, there's ability to access capital, and they're also building in such a way that they can scale so that they are not only local, but they go global. Small and medium enterprises typically contribute around 50% of GDP and 60% of employment in national or local economies. Most evidence suggests that they contribute only 30% of export and even less of international investment. Many operate informally with inadequate understanding of the market demands, competitiveness, and preferences. Relative to the contribution they make to local and national economies, they remain overall underrepresented and in the international economy. So OWIT comes along to support in capacity building for the leaders that run the organizations, capacity building for the members, but we also participate in policy making. We participate in policy making because no matter how much capacity building we do, if we don't participate in policy, then the environment will not be enabling enough for women. So some of the key policy recommendations we make are around seeking through the WTO round table and other channels to ease trade barriers. Progress in this regard will facilitate efforts by SMEs to access international markets. We participate in the WTO roundtable, and we're going to be participating again this year. Another recommendation is to promote the role that foreign direct investment can play as a vehicle for SMEs to access international markets, in particular the inclusion of local SMEs in the supply chains of multinational enterprises and their resultant indirect involvement in exporting activity can lead significant diffusion of technology and more efficient business models, thereby raising the international competitiveness of SMEs. So technology has become a big game changer because look at us here now. You're probably in the US, Noreen is in the UK, I'm in Kenya, but we can come together, we can provide capacity building, but we can also provide platforms where they market, they sell their goods, they do trade missions, they meet other organizations. Many of our chapters have cross-chapter events where you have UK and chapters in the US coming together. The women get to network, they get to understand each other's products, how to do business in their countries, and it carries on like that. So it's a work that involves multiple stakeholders. So OWIT chapters are our main partner in the ground, and then international partners like UPS, to support in the exporting process. We Connect supports us in getting our women access to new markets through procurement. We have people like Shopify that we're talking to also see how our women can get access to those platforms. So in a nutshell, that is how the OWIT international support.
Very interesting. And I love something that you mentioned in there. And for the entrepreneurs that are listening to us, as you can tell, there's passion in these women and knowledge on that part. And you mentioned the importance of procurement, of networking. So procurement meaning that as an entrepreneur, if you want to sell to a larger company or to governments, and OWIT helps with that network and that information. So thank you for that, Frida. I love your thoughts. And I'm gonna say something that Frida always gives us as an advice: don't let perfection be the enemy of good. And right, Frida, is that your advice on that one? And that's because as women, we always want to do and make certain that it's perfect, and we miss the opportunity to move forward. Frida, thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for your leadership, advocating for women around the world. We really appreciate it. And I think it's a good segue for our next speaker. If I may invite Lizbeth Becerra to join us, because from the UPS and the UPS Foundation, we both launched a program, the Women Entrepreneurship Program, in 2018. And one of our first partners globally, We Connect is one of our partners too. We'll talk about that. And one of our first partners doing a lot was the International Trade Center SheTrades initiative. And Lizbeth, we have heard so much wisdom from Noreen and Frida. I love about ITC SheTrades is how we get very focused on how do we help entrepreneurship in the country, right? And the training. Tell us about what ITC SheTrades does and why is it important for UK entrepreneurs to know about it and be part of that family and network?
So thank you so much. First of all, it's a real pleasure to be here with you today on this very special occasion. As you say, as one of our dearest partners, UPS launches a very impactful program that keep breaking down ceilings and taking women to new heights, which is very aligned with ITC SheTrades initiative. So for those of you who are present today and don't know what ITC is, ITC stands for the International Trade Center, that it's a joint organization of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization. And our mandate is to expand trade opportunities from micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and bring about more equitable world through trade. As Minister Freer was just saying, like how trade can be as a power for good, how can we can spread the benefits of trade exactly. In talking about equality, right? And very relevant to this launch is the fact that 90% of the world businesses and more than half of the global employment are concentrated in these small and medium-sized enterprises. But yet women run less than 1/3 of these small businesses. And you wonder, but why? And this is exactly what ITC launched the SheTrades initiative in 2015. Actually, it was launched to address the barriers women face to access economic opportunities. Many of them have been already mentioned by Noreen and Frida, for example, access to information, access to networks, access to markets, access to finance, access to skills, access to business networks to tap into this business potential of those sectors that are very profitable, but that women are just not stepping in. Why? So what we do at the initiative level, we target all stakeholders across the trade and business ecosystem to provide women entrepreneurs and producers with access to key knowledge, to resources, to networks. We work, for example, with policymakers on inclusive reforms. We leverage public and private sector partnerships to amplify our work. We work with business organizations as well to better tackle women challenges and access to trade opportunities. And we work very closely with women entrepreneurs that are our key focus to providing access to knowledge and trade markets, skills to support them, for example, increase their competitiveness, e-commerce, access to finance, as well as we are tapping a lot right now as well on a topic that is very key, access to finance. How can they tap into capital providers that will provide them the capital to make the businesses grow? Talking a little bit maybe on the global trade agenda, we work through mainstream agenda at the heart of the multilateral trading system. ITC is part of the impact group that aims to mobilize trade's international community and achieving gender equality through sharing best practices from all over the world, different governments, and building evidence base for more inclusive trades. We actually did very recently an ISO workshop to defining what is women entrepreneurship. We found out that different governments, different countries define it very differently. And that actually puts a lot of challenges around data collection on gender disaggregated data, research, policy making, international comparability, access to capacity building, finance and markets. And in 2020, together with International Organization for Standards, over 350 experts from 77 countries come together to establish an internationally recognized definition to define about topics around women's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also support, for example, with different international organizations like ITU on Equals, for example, that it's a partnership trying to increase, well, release a little bit the gender divide by empowering women and girls in tech. We engage with networks like the W20. So we do a lot of these kind of things and research. But I think if I would like to focus on something today, it's the power of partnerships. Women's economic empowerment, as we say, it's not an issue only of maybe governments fixing something on policy or just private sector doing their own, or women entrepreneurs getting scaling. It's a thing about all stakeholders into the business ecosystem, building hands together and working closely. This is why SheTrades works with over 300 partners from all over the world to advance women in business. Our partners are leaders across all sectors, like logistics with UPS, e-commerce, finance, legal advisory, for example. We work closely with Sidley Austin. And as Anna and Maria was mentioning, we launched the SheTrades and UPS project, right, to put together technical competitiveness of women to provide solutions, for example, in how can women put together. The project works at a program level with all the trainings that we've developed together. And we have been focusing on in-country activities in India, Vietnam, Mexico, and Nigeria. When COVID-19 happens, we started focusing on key topics that were digital transformation and access to finance. And what we have achieved is just amazing. We developed e-learning courses together, if I remember correctly, warehousing and logistics for e-commerce, customer experience, shipping insurance, tariffs and trade regulations in English, Spanish, and French that have been accessed by over I think it was, I have it here, 8,700 women that have been trained through these e-learning courses that are accessible for free. These women are coming from 107 countries accessing these courses. So this is the power of partnerships, putting together knowledge to the hands of women. We do it for free. All this information, it's available on our website, SheTrades.com. So for all women entrepreneurs here from the UK joining this, SheTrades.com, it's a one digital stop shop, so you can log in, access to networks, access to all this over 100 e-learning courses that we've put together, access to opportunities to attend trade fairs, access to mentors that will be facilitating as well for women. So I'll stop it here because I get excited about these topics.
I know, I love it. And I think it's important for women to know there's a community and a network out there. And what ITC SheTrades does is amazing. And I do want to say the heart of the UK supports a lot of programs around the world supporting women entrepreneurship, and we will be it will be bad for us not to mention it, how much they support all these programs around developing countries. I'm going to turn over now to Anita O'Hara. Anita, I love what you work in, and maybe to focus specifically on young entrepreneurs, because it starts with youth, right? It starts with training on that part, and for us, for the UPS Foundation, and UPS is an honor to work with your organization. Tell us about what you're working on, Anita, and to complement any of these messages.
Sure. Thank you, Maria Luisa, and thank you for having me. It's great to be here. So our work, I guess, is a little bit different from what many of my fellow panelists and probably what a lot of the entrepreneurs on the call are doing, in that we are a national charity. We're part of an international group of charities, actually, but we're a national charity in the UK. We work with young people aged from 4 to 24. And we just really believe that meaningful opportunities combined with the appropriate support can transform those young people's lives. And so our vision is that every young person has the opportunity to learn the vital employability and financial and entrepreneurship skills needed to earn and then look after their money, to develop that enterprising mindset that's so vital if you want to be an entrepreneur, and to make a positive contribution to their communities and to their society. So we are in the middle of a 4-year strategy called No Time Like the Future. We are committed to providing 1 million of these learning, enterprise, employability, financial education opportunities to young people throughout the UK by the end of next year, and I'm glad to say we are on target to do that with the support of our partners such as UPS, which we're extremely grateful for. And so in terms of the topic that we're talking about today, last year in 2021, again with the very generous support of the UPS Foundation, we ran a campaign called Future Female Founders, Unleashing the Potential of Gen Z. So we are working with those young women that are maybe, just before the stage where they might be thinking about starting their own business. And we were exploring, I mean, a lot of the topics have come up already in this conversation, but we were exploring how can we break down the barriers to encourage young women, regardless of their background, to consider entrepreneurship as a real career option. And we were particularly concerned at the fact that the pandemic was proving to disproportionately affect young women, particularly young women from those maybe more disadvantaged or underserved communities. So basically what we did is we ran a series of virtual events and podcast conversations with female entrepreneurs, business leaders, politicians, young women. We had Sarah Davis from Dragon's Den, we had Alison Rose herself, we had Justin Greening, we had lots of young women and young entrepreneurs. And we were just really exploring, okay, how can we break down these barriers? And we identified several key themes, and I won't go into all of them here, but I can absolutely share those with any of the audience members after the event, because again, with the support from UPS Foundation, we were able to produce a report that had recommendations for schools, for policymakers, for business leaders. I mean, I think everybody here has talked about the power of partnerships, and we're one small charity. We absolutely do not think we can do any of this on our own, but it was like, how can we work together to break down these barriers? And so we produced this report, then we recently followed it up just recently with a year on to see, what progress have we been making, what progress has been made in that year to support young women in this area. So there were a number of key themes and recommendations. I just want to pick out two, and I think everybody, practically everybody here, certainly Noreen, Frida, Lizbeth has mentioned the improving access to meaningful networks. It came out as a key theme. And also access to relatable role models, and role models as defined by the young women and the young people themselves, you know, in that you can't be what you can't see, you know, so we were looking at how do we do that. And interestingly, we wanted to get a better understanding of what young people meant by role models. So we ran a survey. We asked a very short survey. We had, I think, 350 young people respond, 90% of whom were young women. And we asked them, who would you identify as your most inspirational female? Who would you say is your most important female role model? And what's your relationship to them, if any? And imagine you've suddenly been given the opportunity to start your own business. How prepared would you feel? So 87%, as I said, who responded were female. And we discovered that 70% of young people aged 11 to 16 listed a family member as their most important female role model. And mostly that was mom, right? So that was 56%, I think, was mom. And so that highlights the importance and powerful influence of family networks on young people. But the flip side to that is, for us as a charity, when we're working with these young people, is to consider how we support those young people who don't have such strong family networks, or even maybe have negative influences in their family networks. So how can we support those young people? And how do we provide access to relatable role models within their wider community as part of our program? So that's something that we're working very hard to do. And then, but interestingly, there were fewer respondents that listed a family member as their inspirational female. So obviously mom and female relatives are important, but then they were looking, those young people were looking outside their family for those inspirational role models. And very interestingly, the survey found that inspirational women tended to be known public figures who displayed strong values rather than celebrities or influencers that you might think they would be. So again, how are we providing those inspirational female role models to young people? So that's what we're working on. In terms of the business, we also found, this is really interesting to us, young people aged 11 to 16 felt the most prepared to start a business, giving themselves a score of 8.5 out of 10. And then that dips for young people aged 17 to 24. So what's happening there? Is it an example of confidence reducing as people become older and they're aware of the challenges that they face? And how can we support young people and young women especially to retain or to regain that confidence? So they're all areas we're exploring in our work. And then we are also looking at access to wide-reaching inspirational networks, access to those relatable role models. And then the other thing that we want to do is that, and I guess this leads into, you did ask at the start, Maria Luisa, about you know, what would be your top tip? And I know that this is easier said than done, but we, you know, reframing the role that failure plays, you know, because I think there is, especially as women, there is a tendency to think if it's not perfect, or I haven't done it completely right, or if I've failed, then if I failed at something or made a mistake, then I'm doing things wrong. When actually we all know, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but we all know that actually the failures and the mistakes are the things that you learn most from and the things that you retain. So what we try and do in our programs is we give young people, especially young women, a safe space to fail. So one of our programs is they set up and run their own business over the course of a year. We provide them with support, but it's a completely safe space. They can muck up, they can make mistakes, they can learn from them. And that helps to build that resilience, that determination, and that kind of feeling that they can do this, that this is something that they can do. And I'll just say that there was a survey in 2020, I think, that showed that British 15-year-old girls were ranked as the 5th nation out of 79 most afraid of failure. So in our programs, again, we're trying to build their resilience, help them face those inevitable setbacks, and then hopefully that will help that mindset of thinking, I can do this, this is something for me.
Yeah, I love it, Anita. Confidence, resilience example. I love the program that Young Enterprise UK is doing. Thank you for your leadership and sharing those thoughts. And so we move to our last but not least speaker, Susan, what a wealth of information we have heard, and later on we're going to hear from an entrepreneur who has made it happen. So she's coming next. But Susan, tell us. I love your leadership and what you've been working on and how we met, right? Working on policy thoughts. Your words of wisdom after you have heard these amazing presentations.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes without saying that there have been some very inspiring thoughts and comments, and some great data and stats, all supported by great data and stats. And what we're about in the Department for International Trade is building our knowledge base, collecting gender disaggregated data. As we know, traditionally, data hasn't been disaggregated by data, and it is very important to enable us to do gender-based policy making. And if you haven't read it, I would recommend the book Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, which everybody is nodding because we've all been inspired by that book in terms of making sure that we can access the right data to enable us to make good policy. So I'm just going to pick up very quickly on a couple of things. Firstly, with respect to Minister Freer's comments, I would point you in the direction of the website great.gov.uk, which is the government's single destination for information on UK trade, on investment, and associated things such as tourism and education. I would go there, and then there is also another service which I will post in the chat called Ask Export Support Team, where they will answer your questions directly on exporting from the UK or indeed into the UK. I will post both of these in the chat. Minister Freer did kindly give his email address, and do by all means use it, but those are other sources of support as well, and they will complement the type of resources. For example, Lizbeth mentioned the SheTrades.com, which is also a wealth of resources for women. I want to pick up on one or two things that I think haven't adequately been said. The first one was about the need for gender disaggregated data. The second point I want to pick up on is intersectionality. So women, we know, are disadvantaged, and they have a wealth of disadvantage, in part because women do an awful lot of unpaid care. 90% of unpaid care in the UK is done by women, and that means that they are not as flexible as workers. And it means that when they are running their own business, as many of you on the call will know, you are running it around a whole set of other responsibilities, and your business fits in with your life, not your life fits in with your business. What part of the need for gender disaggregated data is to understand better how women run their businesses differently from men. But we do face a disadvantage as women, and this is compounded if you have other protected characteristics. For example, disability or race. If you're a woman of colour, you have additional disadvantage when it comes to running your business. I love the statistics that Anita's survey came up with about women held back, about great inspirational figures, and where women look for peer advice and for peer inspiration. We do know that women can be held back by entrenched gender stereotypes, and in DIT we are aiming to showcase success stories of women in non-traditional sectors, particularly tech, science, manufacturing, but also retail, food and drink. We are also in DIT promoting female business leaders as SME export heroes as part of our Made in the UK, Sold to the World marketing assets. And we're trying to build up advocacy and highlight the significant role and expertise of women in trade across DIT and our global network, which is why working with ITC, for example, with UPS and with OWIT is so important to us. I think those are the key themes that I really wanted to pick up there, and absolutely agree with Nicole's comment there that the importance of having men fully engaged in our work, and champions for us as women as well.
Yes, Susan, thank you. As a mother of two boys, I agree. It is important to have that he for she. I love what all of you are doing, and I'm sorry we didn't have an hour and a half to have a larger conversation, but this is the beginning of great friendships for those of you that have watched Casablanca. I'm a huge movie fan, but we are going to continue this partnership, and all of you that you have met here will be part of our training in that, sharing with you more about what they're doing and their organization, so all of you can be part of it and be able to use as resources. So ladies, thank you so much for your leadership, for your passion. Really appreciate it. And now I bet you a wonderful rest of the conversation. And as I said earlier, may the force be with all of you. Have a great day. So now I'm going to welcome my colleague, Sarah Bell, and who's going to introduce our next speaker, who, as we have been talking about the power of doing and what we're working on, our next speaker has done it, has gone through the training, and has a great story to tell. So Ilgin, a pleasure, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly.
No, it's okay. It's Ilgin, but it's okay. Ilgin is fine. So.
Ilgin, a pleasure. And my dear Sarah, I turn it over to you to introduce Ilgin. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Maria Luisa, and thank you to all our speakers. That was really inspiring. So Ilgin, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We just wanted to hear again from someone who's on the ground, putting all these great ideas into effect. And Ilgin is one of our customers in Turkey. I believe you've been through the Women Exporters Program.
Yeah.
Ilgin, can you tell us a bit about why, after 15 years in the corporate world, you decided to start your own maternity wear business? So over to you.
Well, actually, I worked in the energy sector, which was a male-dominated sector anyways. And then I realized that women is actually facing a challenge. And then I read the gender gap report from the World Economic Forum in 2018. And it says every year 140 million women give birth, and almost half of it, 43%, quits work after giving birth. And wondering why it is the case, I read out that women cannot go back to work because during the first months, either you have to breastfeed or pump, and the dresses that you can wear for doing so is not really for the business environment. And that's why you have the dilemma of continuing your career or giving up breastfeeding or breast milk. So I said, well, we should stand not for just myself, but maybe for the whole business women, women in business, let's say. Because I also had friends, my sister, so many women around me who had to choose between continuing their career and being the mother they wanted to be. So I said, well, we can maybe change this attitude for all the women. And then we established Akushe, coming up with models that you can wear also for business, but for breastfeeding as well. And we actually tried to establish an attitude that women can do both if they want to. So we came up with a line saying Akushe is a premium maternity wear for women who has active professional and social lives. So it was well accepted. And in 2 years, we got accepted to Chair Blair Foundation for Women program in UK, and Young Transatlantic Innovation Leaders program run by US Department of State. They select 50 startups to support. So in 2 years, getting accepted from those two major programs, we started, we were selling in Turkey anyways, but we started selling also abroad. And I guess those two rubber stamps were so influential on our story that we started to have press coverage. Then 2 years after I read the gender gap reports, I was invited to World Economic Forum to showcase Akushe as a gender equality tool. Then UN Women presented Akushe as a gender equality tool as well, which was actually the point I wanted to make from the very beginning, because I'm not trying to sell textiles only. I'm trying to sell the idea, the attitude, so that every woman who buys and wears Akushe will feel more empowered that they can do both if they want to. So they don't need to choose between the baby and the career. So actually I stay in the point where I wanted to be, but now I'm trying to achieve more, establishing Akushe as a lifestyle brand, which will lead to Akushe Academies as well. And during that journey, since I'm totally from a different background, I'm an engineer who worked in the energy sector for 15 years. So basically I didn't have any trade experience. I did business development, but that was again in energy sector. So actually UPS was a very, let's say, like a friend to me, not like a solution provider. It was more than a solution provider because I had basically no idea about exports. I don't know anything about, you know, customs, packaging, how to send, the limits for sending, I mean, anything basically. So I went to this export academy. I learned a lot, but even before and after that, my account manager in UPS and also some other UPS Turkey officials, they were really like a phone call away from me. Each time I was down, I was like sending something to US with a time limit, for instance, and I was really thinking like, oh my God, there's this holiday that I didn't know. How will we be on time? I was just calling them. They were making their best. They were calling the US, you know, UPS, let's say, logistic chain to make it, to secure that it will be on time. About the limits, about packaging, I mean, everything, basically, I didn't know. I learned through UPS. So thank you again. Thank you, UPS. And now we started to sell through Fair. It's like a fair trade B2B platform. So through Fair, we are selling now in 12 different boutiques in US, Canada, UK, and Ireland. I mean, they are not very big, let's say, wholesales. They're like hundreds pieces per order. But for me, it's a big thing. So hope to continue this. And UPS also is a partner in Fair. So that was very easy for me because people start using Fair and then they don't know how to send the orders. And since I was already using UPS, for me, it was just, you know, just the right time that I start using fair.com. I was just putting the tracking code. That was it. So I think finding the right partner right away and being familiar with the operations is very important so that throughout your, let's say, path, whenever you find something else, you can easily try and you can easily succeed because you already know the operation. And should I continue or do you have questions?
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Ilgen. I really appreciate your story and what an inspirational story. I love kind of what inspired you, what made you start it, and you know, not just about a business, but really about an attitude. And I think that's fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
And if I may say, Ilgen and Sara, Ilgen, what an inspiration. I love it. Engineer turned mom business, and there's why we do it, right? Your baby. That's okay. Welcome to the that we all have been through here, my dear Ilgen. This is what shows why we do what we do.
Yeah.
You and I hope that we can welcome you again to talk to the new entrepreneurs that are starting and maybe having all the doubts and all the questions. My son comes every day, like around 2 o'clock when he comes back from school and gets into the camera no matter what. So do not worry about that. Yeah. My dear Ilgen, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And we're going to invite you again because I think your story, as Sara says, is a great story, not because you're working with us, but because you believed in yourself. Resilience, you did your homework and went through the training. So thank you, my dear Ilgen.
Thank you so much.
May the force be with you, and we'll continue to be in touch.
Okay, sure. My pleasure.
Thank you. So with that, Sara, I think we're running out of time. Oh my goodness. It was so many great conversations. I think we only have one thing to left, and it is the training starts next week, right? And we have the schedule and that you're going to share with us what we're doing. We hope to see all of you ready to participate. And we have, I think the trainings come here, right? June 2nd.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, I think the trainings start in 2 weeks. So I know there's been some questions in the chat and we haven't had time to get to some of them, but especially that first session that we have on the 7th, how to export, is going to cover a lot of the questions you've had about, you know, getting your goods to different places, what some of the requirements are. We're going to have an expert from the department, an expert from the Department for International Trade as well. So we'll hopefully be able to answer your questions more in depth. But those who've posted questions will also get in touch with you separately. And it's really about, we've got some great experts on this call, and the Exporter program is really helping you make sure you get in contact with the people that you need that can support your business.
Yes. And with that, I want to thank all of our panelists, all the participants. Thank you for being here. For those of you that are watching us in recording afterwards, thank you. We will follow up, and we look forward to starting the models in 2 weeks. Wonderful day. Thank you for being part of the community, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you, Sara. Thank you to all the team.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Thank you,
Goodbye.
everyone.